Well, I'm pleased as far as the issue of life and death is concerned. My position was yesterday that regardless of personal or legal beliefs as far as guilt or innocence is concerned, that death is not appropriate for David Hendricks. So from a personal standpoint as well as a professional standpoint, I am extremely pleased with the judge's decision allowing the man to at least continue some sort of life regardless of the outcome of the appeal. As far as the appeal is concerned, I still believe it will be successful, but on the limited issue of life or death, I support the judge's decision. I think it's reasonable. I think it's personally well-founded and legally well-founded.
The statement indicated that if it had been a bench trial, he would have been acquitted.
Well, I don't think the judge said that, but I think he came close to saying that. I think what the judge was saying is that if he were not a judge, if he were not an attorney, if he were not bound by legal standards and legal rules, if he were simply a layman serving as a juror, listening to the same set of facts, that he might have voted for an acquittal. He might have, if not voted for an acquittal, been unable to reach a verdict based on proof beyond a reasonable doubt. I don't think the judge is telling us what he would have done or how he feels or whether he agrees or disagrees with the jury verdict. I think what he is saying is that he is uncomfortable from a personal standpoint in imposing the death sentence in a case that is solely circumstantial, that is highly questionable, and where the evidence of guilt is not clear and convincing. And I think this is simply a personal and moral judgment made by the man as to the appropriateness of the death penalty in his view of the evidence as a human being, as opposed to what he is obliged to do as a judge or as a lawyer.
As you heard the statement read, the way I interpreted it as it went along, I thought for a while he was veering toward the death penalty. Then it became clear, of course, that he was not. Did you have the same feeling?
No, I really, over the course of 20 years plus, when a judge makes findings of fact and when he is doing what Judge Boehner was doing this afternoon, my feeling is that you never count your chickens. The fact is that if a judge is doing his job, he will tell you what the issues are on both sides. When he's discussing pro issues in his order, your emotional reaction is, uh-oh. When he's discussing con issues, then your reaction is, well, he's talking about my side and my position. But the order is the order and the finding is the finding. So I simply was not sure of what he was going to do until he did what he did, which was, of course, the bottom line.
How did Mr. Hendricks react?
I don't honestly know. The fact is that I think David at this point suffers from the same numbness that we all do to some degree. Those of us that have been involved in the case from the beginning, even you, as far as your involvement in it as a press participant and an observer, I know that we all still feel some numbness and generalized fatigue, and I'm sure that Dave feels the same way. It's simply another step in a long and arduous process for everybody involved in the thing.
What did he say to you?
He said nothing.
Nothing at all?
He has said nothing other than to ask questions pertaining to the motions that we were making and the issues raised by the judge's order. This is consistent with David. The fact is he will inquire, he will ask questions, he will attempt to understand. His emotional and personal reaction will be later. It may be tonight, it may be tomorrow, it will be next week, but it will be in private.
Based upon previous discussions with him, do you think he is pleased he did not get the death penalty?
Well, I would assume that if he is in fact what I believe him to be, that being a rational human being, that given a choice between life and death, he, like I, would opt for life.